Okay, now the next mitzvah is 158, which is the mitzvah to check the signs of the kosher locusts. Now there are 8 species of kosher locusts. Ashkenazim do not eat locusts. I don't know if all Sephardi groups do. I think Yemenites eat locusts. They have a tradition on which the kosher locusts are. There are kosher locusts. I have never had a temptation. And if you've ever come across some, you may indulge. But I personally am not interested. But apparently there are 8 types of kosher locusts, and they have certain signs. It has to do with how the legs bend and how they're structured. And the Yemenites apparently have this tradition. Okay, now the next one is I want to get a little bit to a very important area now. I think Aaron brought this up today, which is the prohibition of eating, first of all, to not eat shrutzim. Shrutzim are any creepy, crawly creature. And the second mitzvah, this is mitzvah kuf 162, and mitzvah 163 is not to eat shrutzim that are in produce. Now, this includes anything that crawls on the ground. And this is extremely important. That's why, generally, the last few days we've been dealing with more practical halachic because this is what the mitzvah involves. Generally, we're not going to go this much into the halachic end of it, but this is vital. When you eat produce, there are different types of bugs and creepy, crawly things which are problematic and potentially problematic. So, for example, you can't eat flies, and you can't eat worms, and you can't eat maggots, and you can't eat all these things. Now, to eat a flying creature, like a fly, or to eat a bug involves at least 4 prohibitions, sometimes 5, and up to 6 prohibitions per bug. Okay, now, what this comes down to is that if you had a choice of eating 30 grams of pork, 30 grams is a kezayis, approximately, and that's 1 prohibition. Whereas if you eat 1 bug, it could be 4, 5, or 6 prohibitions. And it is the most tricky area in kashrus, or one of the most tricky areas, is this bug prevention. So, for example, when a woman makes any sort of legumes, depending on where you live and depending on what the packages look like, in Israel there's a there's a halacha requirement. If a woman is going to make rice, popcorn, any other legumes, she has to spread it out and look it through to make sure there are no bugs crawling around. I'm talking about in a dry state before you've cooked it. I remember once when I first married, my wife sent me over to the store. We were living here in Malta. She sent me across the street to buy a bag of rice. So I bought the bag of rice, and she said to me, check it for infestation when you buy it. So I picked up the bag, and I'm looking at this bag of rice, and all of a sudden there was like a sensation of movement in the bag. You're just like, like you sense something's moving, you can't really identify it. Then I looked closer, and some of these pieces of rice were moving around. And then I realized that it wasn't the rice. It was these little white worms that are camouflaged well by the rice. That's why they're in the rice, that's why they're white. And they're camouflaged, very little thin worms. The whole thing was infested. And you see these worms crawling around. If there are certain halachas that if you find a certain amount of bugs in a bag or in a batch, the whole batch is no good, because that means that it is seriously infested. So if you take like popcorn, before you pop popcorn, you spread it out on the table, and you're going to look it through and pull out any of the bad grains. Now, this includes fruit, produce, particularly in Israel. In Israel, they use a different type of insecticide than they do certainly in the United States. I don't know what goes on in England, but in the United States, they use a certain type of. In Israel, they use an insecticide, and they have limitations. Now, summer fruit. When you eat fruit now, if you eat peaches, if the peach looks good and solid, it's a really good solid peach, there's generally not a problem. When I eat peaches, I always cut around it and break it in half and pull out the stone in the middle, because often there is something hiding underneath that stone. You could find something in the middle of the peach. Now, if it's a good peach and it's a solid, good peach, it's rare to find it. If the peach is soft in any way, don't bite into the peach. Cut it and look and check to see. If there are any signs of brown or black or soft or whatever it is, it could be bruising from shipment, but it could also often be a result of of a visitors who are unwanted. The joke they make is he could eat a peach and then be fleischiks for 6 hours. You don't want that to happen, right? You don't want anything in that peach which is not supposed to be. Sometimes you get infestations. It looks like a zoo. Number one. I'll get to questions in a second. Let me just finish. These are very important. Apples are not a problem. Plums, oranges are not a problem. Don't bite into orange peels, because orange peels often have a little white. They could have little white eggs on them. They don't bite into an orange peel to open it up. Sometimes people try to say, don't do that. Don't bite into it, because people could often have they can have an infestation. Apples are not a problem. Pears are not a problem unless you see a soft spot on it. Then check through the soft spot, and so on and so forth. But dates are a terrible problem. You check the date by opening up the date and pulling out the pit. Never put a date in your mouth straight out. Open it, pull out the pit, and look. If it's a good batch and the dates look fresh, there's generally not a problem. If it's a bag that's been sitting on the shelf and the bag of dates, it just looks kind of oldish, then you better check each individual date, because they could easily be. Dates are very hard to check. We never eat dried figs, because they're very hard to check the fig itself. And if you have pressed figs, like what they call fig loaf, often between the figs you have a problem. We never eat. Again, when I say we never, it doesn't mean I'm making a netter, but in our own home, we almost never eat corn on the cob, because in between the grains where it's impossible to check, you could get infestation. We almost never eat corn on the cob. Periodically in Israel, they will pull out a bulletin not to buy strawberries, because the strawberries are infested. There are even types of fish, particularly carp, that can get worms in the carp, and they'll put out a bulletin: don't buy the fish right now, because the carp is infested with worms that get between the skin of the fish and the fish itself. So in the produce, dates you have to check. Figs, I recommend not eating dried figs. Corn on the cob you should not bite into, because it could be they could very easily have certain little bugs in there. Then you get to I'll get to the question in a second. Then you get to the nuts. Now, when you buy nuts, so first of all, pistachio nuts, I've noticed in Israel, are always the nut right at the tip of the nut. If you open up the shell, right at the tip of the nut, I break, not only that, I open up the shell, then I break the nut open, a pistachio nut, and often at the top there's a little black discoloration. Say at a minimum, but you got to break that off. But I almost never eat pistachios by popping a pistachio into my mouth. Almonds are okay if the almond is completely closed, and it's a good fresh almond, that's not a problem. Cashews, if it's a good batch, shouldn't be a problem. But however, I don't eat cashews without opening the individual cashew. Now, inside the cashew, you will often see a little bit of something in there. Now, a lot of that is the natural growth of the cashew. It has like a little thing in it in the middle. However, I have found cashews where there have been visitors in there and they've waved to me as I've opened the cashew. Right? And therefore, cashews I would not pop into my mouth. I wouldn't pop pistachio nuts in my mouth. Peanuts, depends. If you buy the peanuts in a shell, then they're generally okay. If it's closed in a shell, the peanuts are okay. If you buy the open peanuts, which have been shelled already, I open up peanuts also, because the peanuts, if it's a good batch, they're generally not a problem. If you buy Planters peanuts in America in the jar, Planters peanuts, I think each peanut has been inspected. If you find, I'll give you $1 for every worm you find in a Planters peanut in America. Those are the perfect peanuts, so that's not a problem. But if you buy the peanuts in Israel, which you buy in the shuk, and they're open, those peanuts, you don't know how long they've been sitting, I open up each individual peanut. Sunflower seeds, if the shell is closed, it should be okay. Often what you think is a worm is just a little burnt. But if the shell is tampered with, then once in a while you get a sunflower seed, looks like it, so you should be careful with it. The white sunflower seeds are not a problem, unless the shell seems to be open a little bit. The watermelon seeds are certainly not a problem. Even human beings can't get in there, until you open it. I actually am pretty good at it. I'll take you down anytime. I've had sunflower seed eating contests I had one with a guy in the other yeshiva. I destroyed him. But the what do you call it? The anything that's good, solidly closed shouldn't be a problem. Somebody had a question. Aaron, you had a question.
2 questions. I don't know about Israel, but in England, Strawberries, there's a certain procedure of washing. Blueberries is a very simple procedure of washing. Raspberries and blackberries, would you eat at all?
I'd have to find. We don't get them in Israel. We don't get them in Israel. If I got, I would first speak to a halachic authority to find out what the story with
I've
is.
been told not to touch them.
It could very well be that there's an infantilization. I would speak to a halachic authority to find out what the story. I just don't know what's going on with it. It could be somebody would tell you, well, a certain type of berry never is infested, and therefore you have no problem. By letter of the law, you could rely on the chazaka. You could rely on the established status quo that the thing is good. But it is something tricky. And by the way, if you ever bite into an apple and you hit a worm, most people's reaction is, ugh, a worm. The real reaction should be, oi, an aveira. That should be real. Most people won't eat it because that should be the real reaction. I heard what's the story. This is a great story. It's a guy, a big Rav in Yerushalayim, and 100 years ago, living in the old city, back in the day, and he used to learn Torah day and night. So his daughter would bring him his food to the Beis Medrash. He sat in the Beis Medrash day and night. She would bring him his food. So she'd bring him his lunch, and she would bring him like a bottle of milk, and she would also, in winter where it was very hot, she would bring him a bottle of paraffin oil to heat. He had a heater where he used this oil. Okay, so one day he's sitting there immersed in Torah, and one day she walks into the Beis Medrash, and she says, Daddy, why didn't you drink your milk? And he says, I did. And she says, no, the milk is in the bottle. And it turned out, she said, oi, Daddy, you drank the paraffin oil. He was so immersed in his learning, he didn't know that. He went, I did? Oi, gewalt, I made a bracha levatala. Right? So it depends what your, religious devotion, what are you concerned about? You're concerned about your physical health, you're concerned about your spirit, you understand. So when you bite into a worm, if it should never happen to anybody, if it ever happens, you bite into a worm, the first thing is I shouldn't eat the apple, not because of ugh. I shouldn't eat the apple because I just, I should be horrified because I just did this aveira. Okay, it was unintentional. But the horror should be the aveira. Now, did you ever hear the story about the guy? He's walking on the street, and an anti-Semite stops him. The guy says to him, okay, Jew, I'm going to kill you because I don't like Jews. So the Jew says, oh, well, he realizes he's about to die. So when a person is about to die for being Jewish, there's a bracha you make. It says, whatever the mitzvah, the bracha, different opinions what the bracha is on Kiddush Hashem. So he makes the big bracha out loud, the bracha on Kiddush Hashem, because he's about to die on Kiddush Hashem. This guy looks at me and goes, hey, you're a nut. I'm not going to waste a bullet on you. You're nuts. So the guy goes, So we don't want to, our religious devotions have to be controlled. Sometimes there's religious devotion and there's religious devotion. So if I drank paraffin oil, I would probably be more nervous about having drunk the oil than the bracha of Atala. But, it's just an example of the religious devotion. So anything that I don't know, I would check into. Somebody had a question over here.
Yeah. Two things. One, what about hydroponics? And two, in regards to the...
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, go ahead.
And in regards to the whole peach, if it's whole and there's no opening in it, then why?
There shouldn't be a problem, but they have a way. I have found them, and I'd be afraid to. By the letter of law, you could eat it. By the letter of law, you could bite right into it. I've met them. Once you meet them, a liberal is somebody, like they say, a liberal is somebody who's never been mugged. So once you meet them, it changes your life views. So what do you call it? Once you met them, everything looks a lot different. That's first of all. Second of all, the hydroponics is an important point. See, the hydroponics is when it's grown in sand.
Water.
Water. You're talking about water grown.
Water, yeah,
hydroponics. No. I'm thinking of they have the hydroponics is certainly not a problem as far as I know. But in Israel, what we get is we used to get the lettuce from Gush Katif. Now, pay attention carefully because the lettuce is a separate story all by itself. You see, Pesach, you eat moror. Now, the ideal choice for moror is not horseradish. Horseradish is not bitter. Horseradish is hot, right? Horseradish is hot, and you have to it's so hot, you have to grind it up before they let out, so you're not supposed to eat raw horseradish on the root. You have to grind up the root in order to let out some of the what do you call it? It can actually be dangerous. So Pesach, many people eat the horseradish. Horseradish is second choice for moror. First choice for moror is lettuce, because generally regarded as romaine lettuce, because as you bite it, it's got a good taste, and then it's got like a slightly bitter aftertaste, and that's symbolic of the exile where the Egyptians drew the Jews in sweetly, and then only the bitterness only came, it was a very subtle, and it came afterwards. Now, Pesach, people want to eat them more. The problem with romaine lettuce is they have bugs in them, which are little greenish bugs, which are camouflaged. So there are halachic ways to check the romaine lettuce. You have to soak it, and then you have to dry it off, and you have to wash it with soap. Check it. They even have like a romaine lettuce X-ray machine to check for bugs, where you put it on this light and you check for the bugs. Now, even though you want to fulfill the rabbinic law of eating maror on Pesach, which is a requirement, you don't want to be eating bugs, which is a Torah prohibition. So there are different options. One option is to not eat the leafy part, to cut away the leaves, and right down the middle is a stalk. The stalk is much easier to check. The only problem is that the stalk is hollow. So you'd have to cut down the middle of the stalk and open it up, because we have found visitors in there. We used to eat the stalks of the romaine lettuce. Now, they've started sand-grown romaine lettuce. In Gush Katif, they have the sand-grown produce. And the sand-grown produce, all you need to do is wash it off. There are no bugs in the sand-grown produce. And if there are, they come off in water. And that's what everybody uses, is the sand-grown, romaine lettuce. And you wash it off before Pesach, and everything is fine.
Check it.
You see, you wash it off. You don't have to check it. All you got to do is rinse it off well, and it doesn't have to be checked because it rinses off. Now, the problem here is, I'll get to you in 1 second. The problem here is things like cauliflower and the green one. What's it called? Asparagus. Okay, cauliflower and asparagus. So they have a company called Bodek, which literally means check, right? Bodek is sand-grown or hydroponically grown cauliflower and asparagus. Does not have to be checked. It only has to be washed off. I'll get to the question in a second. It only has to be rinsed off. The problem is that the price of the Bodek stuff comes out more per pound than chicken. So it's very expensive. Other countries, I don't know the halacha. I'd have to be aware when you're outside of Israel what the infestation rate is and if it could be checked or not. Cauliflower, see, anything that's tightly packed together like that has little crevices is obviously difficult to check. I'm not telling you can't eat it. I would say that it has to be checked carefully before one does, and one would have to find out what the view of the halachic authorities is based on the pesticides and everything else in the country. Somebody had a question over here. Go ahead. No, I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead.
If you inadvertently eat a bug, are you then meaty? If you ate
No.
it,
That was just a joke. No, you're not meaty. You're gross, but you're not meaty. Yeah.
So my first question is this. If you find, say, a peach and there's a wormhole in it or a bug hole in it, you can see there's an evident, then you decide...
You could cut it away. You could cut away the area as long as you're safe and you've cut away anything.
Decide for whatever reason to check it for the bug. The bug's been in and out.
Right.
Can you not cut it away and just eat
You
it
could
if you're
cut it away.
disgusting?
You could cut away, yeah.
If you're literally disgusting...
Yeah, then cut it away. Then you could cut it away or not eat it at all. Some people just, I don't want to eat a peach that's had uninvited guests.
Can you eat the wormhole?
No. Anything, no, because I might put in eggs in it. No, don't eat the worm. Don't be that desperate. I'll lend you the money, you buy another peach.
Secondly, what do you do when you buy because we have, for lettuce and salads, we have similar Bodek stuff, like checked stuff.
Right.
And the amount of times I've got a bag of that and there's been bugs in it.
In the Bodek?
Yeah.
There have been bugs in the Bodek?
They have to put a sticker saying that 100% you can't really rely on it.
Yeah.
It's a hazaka, that there is no bugs, but 100% you can.
They don't have under the Bodek. I've never found anything in the Bodek. If I would tell the kashrut supervisors that if they're already telling you that at 100% you can't rely on it, so then all it really means is that you don't have to be as nervous about it as the other stuff. Yeah. No, then you have to. Yeah. Then it's pointless. The whole point is that you shouldn't have the same headache. To the contrary, that's even a bigger headache because now you know that you got to be careful every bite. That's I don't know. I've never found anything in the Bodek, and our Bodeks don't say. Our Bodek said is you don't need to check it. It says so again. I guess it depends on the environmental factors. If you have stuff in the house, what do you call it? That's been sitting there for a while. Potatoes you don't have to check. Onions you don't have to check. But if you have stuff in the house that's been sitting there for a while, then you got to be careful. Okay. All of these are still more detailed of these. Any other questions on this? Because this is extremely important, gentlemen. Tomorrow we're going to start Sunday we're going to start a complete new subject. Tomorrow there's somebody else gives a shir on Thursdays. But Sunday we're going to start a complete new subject. Any other questions on this? We're out of the situation of kashrus. Any other question on the bugs? Yeah.
If you boil vegetables and all the bugs die, and it's not such a problem?
It's after the fact. You're not allowed to do it. You're not allowed to do it lechatchila. You have to check the bugs. After the fact, it's less of a problem, but sometimes it can be more of a problem if they have been boiled into the what do you call it, into the thing. So that gets a little tricky. Yeah.
Related to what he was saying, I heard that if the strawberries are frozen, even if there is a bug and the bug is there frozen, you're allowed to eat the bug. That's what I heard that. If it's dead already and the bug is already dead, you can technically...
You're into an area where if the bug had never been removed, it grew in that thing itself. It didn't come in from the outside. If it grew in the thing itself, so then if there are leniencies, we don't generally rely on that though. We generally look to inspect everything.
A lot of people say that you can have frozen strawberries.
I don't know. I can't. I'm not responsible for anything anybody says. People say a lot of things unless I know their source, where they heard it from, what they're misquoting, what they're quoting. I'm not responsible.